Baba, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
First, I would like to congratulate you on this work, Kunene and the King. I understand that the work has done so much well since it opened in 2019 in Stratford-upon-Avon in the UK. One of the accolades that it has received was being listed as one of the top 10 best plays by the Royal Shakespeare Company. That is amazing.
Amazing.
And coming back here home, it has been nominated for 7 Naledi Theatre Awards. But for the people who are going to see it for the first time here at the South African State Theatre, what can they expect? If you can please just unpack the show for us.
Kunene and the King is a story I wrote because I wanted to celebrate 25 years of our democracy.
Yes.
And I wanted to know, is there anything to celebrate? What are we talking about? I asked a white friend of mine who gave me a grocery list of things that don't work. Almost like it's a failed country, a failed state, a broken government. Now I asked a black friend, he said to me, yesterday I was in hell. I know things are not fine, but I'm in a different position now. I'm part of the ruling class. I'm part of a free society. South Africa is a democracy. I can say whatever I like. It fascinated me, these two opposing ideas. Then I got an idea. I'm going to get a character that is white. Liberal who says, I don't see race,
Yes.
and I've done nothing wrong. I've been a good white person. I'm even an actor who is going to be doing a play in Cape Town,
Yes.
King Lear.
Yes.
But he needs to be looked after because he's just been diagnosed with a terminal disease. But he doesn't believe, he thinks he can do the play. So he then writes to the nursing agency to send someone to look after him. They tell him, of course, Sister Koen is coming to look after you. I ring the doorbell. I'm a retired nurse, used to work at Barra and then at Matlake Hospital on the oncology section. I'm now doing agency work just to keep on going. Looking also after rich white people who don't want to die alone in hospitals or hospice, want to die in the comfort of their families.
Yes.
I'm always there. It pays good because, it's private nursing. Knock on the door, he freaks out. A black man. He wants to call the police. I keep explaining, I'm the nurse from the nursing agency. He says, no, you want to rob me, you people, you want to kill me. I said, I'm the nurse. He says, I'm waiting for the nurse, Sister Koen. I said, no, sir, it's Sister Kunene. And then to put these two people in one space, what are they going to deal with each other? What stories are going to tell or talk about? What are the things that South Africa I'm trying to bring where we are, where we were before.
Yes,
is
yes.
there a conversation, the one of today of democracy or non-racialism, or in private spaces, what do we say about each other in private spaces? And so I found this fantastic vehicle of the black man, Lunga Kunene, used to study Shakespeare at school, and he loves Shakespeare, just as a writer. He loves Chinua Achebe, he loves Jacques Mda, he loves Arthur Fugard, he
Yes.
loves all the John Kane plays, it doesn't matter, but he also loves Shakespeare.
Yes.
Now, Jack is a Shakespearean actor. He's trying to teach Jack, the Lunga, about this great writer. And then he says, no, I know the writer because I also did a play at school. But what transpires between the two of them reveals where our democracy is, reveals where our racial attitude against each other, reveals how racism can now be covered in such a way that we talk about it as attitude.
Yes.
If you say, I'm not comfortable with this is racism, people will say, could you please move on? Not everything is racism. You can dislike a person, you don't care what color they are. Some saying, I don't see color. So it's a beautiful tragic comedy in the sense that it's done in a way where you really enjoy yourself listening and watching these two old people
Yes.
and finding each other, seeing each other, And finally, just before the play is over, there's a dramatic change, which you will see when you see the play, that really brings them together.
Thank you, Baba. I studied Shakespeare in high school. I did Julius Caesar in Matric. And a few years later, Nothing But the Truth came. And my English teacher said, okay, now we're going to get rid of Shakespeare because we're now going to start reading the stories that relate to us as Black people. So there was this conversation that John Kane is now replacing Shakespeare. And then now here we are, John Kane is embracing Shakespeare. and I just want to talk briefly about your love for Shakespeare and how has it influenced you as an artist and as a writer. How do you incorporate Shakespeare's work into your own craft?
In the early 60s, you know, there was Bantu education. It was compulsory that the native child is introduced to Shakespeare, and not introduced to any work that was revolutionary, but Shakespeare. So there would always be a Shakespeare set work. If it's not Twelfth Night, if it's not Hamlet, if it's another play. But I studied Julius Caesar in isiXhosa, a translation by W. Beams Ledley. On the year 2000, when I was invited to speak at Stratford upon Avon in the Royal Shakespeare Company about the impact of Shakespeare in world cultures, I spoke of world culture's impact on that colonialist called Shakespeare, telling stories of African people in various ways from a traveler's point of view, exaggerating our nativeness, our savageness, and not giving us an opportunity to be represented as equals. I did Othello, which was the first Othello in this country played by a Black actor. White people, some of them walk out when I was kissing Desdemona. I was even stopped by the police. And
that got you into trouble
got me
when
into
you
trouble.
kissed the white lady on stage.
I kissed the white lady on stage. And I tried to explain that when white people play this role, because even South Africa then, only whites would play Othello. They put black makeup. So you can't hold Desdemona as your new bride because you're going to smudge the face or your black makeup on a beautiful white face and costume. And I said, but I don't have that problem. And mine doesn't move. So I've always had this relationship with Shakespeare. Even when we were young, in the Eastern Cape, you would never be considered very educated when you make a speech and you doesn't quote, and as Shakespeare says, love is not love that bends when alteration, you know, bull nonsense. But it was a standard in the Eastern Cape. So we grew up with Shakespeare. But as I continued writing and getting in my work, developing as a young writer, I realized he's not that special. Actually, there are writers I know, or S.E.K. Mkai, or A.C. Jordan, or Sol Plaatje, who are greater writers than this guy, but he's celebrated. So I always try to bring Shakespeare into my work, into my writing, but in the context of me understanding him as an African. So I love playing that kind of interaction with Shakespeare. In this play, I chose King Lear, because at the end of life, when you suddenly realize your sunset is there, your kids come closer, whether you share your life, you share your wealth, you share your experience, you share your culture, you want to give them something, not that they will remember you by, but that which will build them and give them the confidence that they are no less a being than any other being, irrespective of where they are. Africa is the beginning. As Ingwapela Madingane would say, Africa is the ending. So in all, I have this Africanist approach to my work. Although I write in English, for idioms are in African sort of context. So they may sound like not good English. I don't care. But they are just a direct translation, you know, of isiXhosa into that. So Shakespeare has been a kind of a friend to me. And 2021, I was awarded the Pregnell Shakespeare Birthday Award.
Amazing.
As the 21st. All 20s are Lord so-and-so, says so-and-so, Dame so-and-so. And right at the bottom, in small letters, Dr. John Kane, winner of the 2021 Pregnell Shakespeare Birthday Award.
Wow.
For my work in making Shakespeare accessible to a broader community beyond the borders of the UK.
Yes.
So it's just an ordinary writer, like Wallace Soyinka, like all the writers I know. So in Lear, I bring in the idea of when you die, the ancestors take over.
Yes.
But in Lear, he wants to divide his kingdom while he's still alive. I'm saying to him, well, you can't do that. You got to die. Then your brothers will decide, and uncles, or this the will says, that's what the ancestors are. So when you see the play, you see those differences and nuances of being an African understanding Shakespeare.
Yes.
But in our interaction, you find that there are white people in this country who still believe that there shouldn't have been change in the way it was. There are white people who felt that de Klerk sold out. There are white people who believe that maybe one day they'll wake up. Mandela died on Robben Island, and things are exactly as they were in 1652 or in 1948. So the play reveals exactly those little undertones of, look what you've done to the economy, look what you've done to the country, look what you've done. What did we gain out of this independence?
Yes.
I'm saying you're not dead.
And it's a mirror that reflects ourselves as a people. I mean, if you're sitting there watching the play as an audience member, you also ask yourself questions because you also see yourself in those characters. You also ask, like, hang on, maybe I should do better, or maybe I should change my way of thinking or my way of doing. I want to ask, when you were sitting writing the script, you obviously want the right voice to say your words on stage. How did that selection come about? I understand when it opened, you were playing it with, say, Anthony Shea, may his soul rest in peace. And now it's Michael Richards. How did that selection, how do you select the people you work with? How do you find the right voices to say, okay, this one is going to say it exactly how I want to say it, and he's gonna or she's gonna say it the way I want my audience to receive it?
As a writer, you're not the actor. You write the story.
Yes.
You create this character based on your life experience, based on your community experiences, based on your own relationships with people close to you and not close to you. You create this great image of this person, and then the characters interact, and then you bring in other characters. At that stage, the actor John Kane is not in the picture.
Yes.
And I write the play, and I read the first draft, and I read again, and then I think it's ready, and I'm thinking of a director. And I have this thing. Whenever director I approach, he says, I'll direct. And the theater says, I'll produce if you play. If you play Sipo.
If John Kane is here, if he's part of it.
But I'm a writer, Said, if you play what you call a Sipo in Nothing But the Truth. If you play Makaya in Missing. If you play Lunga in Kunene and the King. I said, well, okay. I've written the play, I could see there's parts of me in it.
Yes.
Like holding a mirror. And then we discuss the other character like Jack, or the characters like Mandisa, and with character like Utando. That is now being discussed with the casting people and the theater, and especially the director makes an incredible input. And then I end up with, okay, this is the company. Now I have to step away from the writer. And listen to my words being interpreted by the other actor or actors, or even interpreted by the director, who may see it different, who I'm here by saying, I didn't mean that.
Yes.
No, you're saying it incorrect. Your inflection is making me, you're losing the impact. I'm only allowing myself to be in the room on the first week of rehearsal.
Yes.
After the first week of rehearsal, I trust now that the actors have got the understanding
Yes.
of what my intention was. What am I trying to communicate with my people, with my audience? Then the writer goes away. So sometimes during rehearsal, and the actor would say, I don't understand that line. Could you say it this way? And they look at me and says, I do know the writer. I'll consult him this evening. I'll give you the answer tomorrow. The writer comes back, says, no, he wants it that way because this is what he meant. You know, there's those wonderful words sometimes an actor finds a different dimension and a different, deeper meaning. And I'm quite surprised by watching the play or even acting in it that I, as an actor, does a different interpretation of this section than when I wrote it.
Yes.
So, you allow it to grow. You allow the actor to inhabit the part, to take and possess the words and make them theirs. And they then become the character. So when you watch the play, I'm not John Kane. He's at home with his wife and his 7 children and 10 grandchildren. It's Lunga on stage with Michael Richard and the play. And because I've got to go home and come out of it,
Yes.
I've
yes.
got to be able to distance myself at the end of the story,
Yes.
that I don't take the character home.
Yes.
So I've now played it there and step out.
Yes.
And people, after seeing the play, they always say, you don't look that old. You look, but when we saw you, you look, but you don't look that, because there was a
Yes.
different person.
Now, Baba, in Kunene and the King, there are moments. There are funny moments there, but there are moments that are extreme for me, that I find really extreme. When like when Jack throws his underwear that is stained with his soft serve, I might say, he throws it on his face. Did you do that? Was that just for a dramatic effect, or did you do that to intensify Jack's cruelty?
When you write, you get to a point of confrontation, and you have to allow both sides of the argument to be able to be presented equally. Jack's hatred and bitterness and racism, I have to be in that position.
Yes.
I have received that
Yes.
racism. I'm 79 years old. I was 51 years when I voted for the first time in my life.
Yes.
I have experienced even a look of racism that just looked me like I'm a nobody, I'm a non-human being, I am a Bantu. So I can get into that skin, and then I've now got to get Lunga a strong position
Yes.
to be able to challenge this position. So then I go into the militant sort of experience that I've had as a young person and as a Black South African and as an African and as a Black person. So I represent both arguments. When I push it to the end, how could I show his callousness, his evil, his really disrespect?
Yes.
And because he had just gone to the loo and messed himself up, I had a tool right on stage, and I saw, okay, you'll throw it in the face, not as a shock, but to show how deep this dislike, this hatred, this suspicion, this anti-Black, anti-white that we have. It also shows how much more or longer is it going to take to truly create a non-racial South Africa and a rainbow nation.
Yes.
So those moments come up. There's another beautiful moment. Just in the beginning, I says, I'm going to make tea. Would you like a cup? He says, yes, please. But on the cupboard top, there are cups there. At the bottom of the sink, there's a green enamel mark. I thought, okay, I'm not going to handle this because I've written this. Okay, all right. So now, when I come back, I come with both of them, the tea on the cup and the tea on the mark. And the audience is waiting. I give him the mark because now he has to prove he's not a racist by drinking the tea
Yes.
that he said I should drink from a mug as a boy,
Yes.
right? Things like, I look after him. Where am I going to sleep? He said, there's 7 quarters. I said, excuse me, I'm not your garden boy. I'm not a domestic servant. I'm a nurse. I'm a professional. I come to look after you. He said, I don't know where you're going to sleep. I said, it's a very big place. So those are the issues where black and white people and corporate level, we meet in offices, we talk and like we're buddies. This guy I've worked with, we even shake our hands, we even teach them how to do the double shake.
Yes, yes.
They hug each other with shoulders. But then you get in a taxi to Soweto and they go into a restaurant in Killarney, they go in a restaurant in Sandton with their people. And they have their own lives separate from you and away from you.
Yes.
So by me trapping them into one space, I really want to see, what does a white man feel when he has to live with a black person, not on the context of living in the servants' quarters, but need this person as a professional nurse. Can we treat each other as professionals? You understand? In the boardroom, yeah, Mr. Simfiwe, yes, Mr. Mankalane, yes, Mr. Mambeki. But in your home, we go back to truly to who we are, with our prejudices, with our fears, with our suspicions.
Yes, yes.
So I'm breaking that wall in Kunene and the King. So when people sit here, first because there's a terminal disease, every evening there's somebody sitting in the audience weeping. Because says, my mother died exactly of the same disease. My mother was exactly like that. My mother was difficult. And the person she was more difficult to was our Aunt Maria, who used to carry her, pick her up, wipe and clean her. But she was, towards the end of her life, she was the rudest person towards Maria. And when she died, she gave her money to the SPCA.
Wow.
Not to Maria.
Wow. What also makes your work distinguishable is that, yes, you explore tough issues like race, class, politics, but you also write about, you also tap into human condition. And that's also amazing because you look at the true feelings of the people, you see the human being. And I also believe that for us to understand how we got here, for us to understand the present, we have to look a little bit back on history so that we can understand the present, and then that might also help us to move forward. For me, this play, for the older generation, it's actually a reminder, yes. But for the younger generation, what I think they call them born frees, it's a lesson in history for them to understand how we got here. But for Dr. Kane, who should come see this play?
Everybody. The old, the not so old, the young. We say parental guidance. My granddaughter came to see the play. She's 6 years old. She says, I didn't like when you tried to push Jack to the floor. And I thought she would comment on that incident when Jack did that. But yes. She commented on my physicalness.
Yes.
My son, who is in his 40s, saw the actual racism. And between, he says, gee, Dad, this place says to all of us, there's still a lot we need to do to make this country normal. There's still a lot. And then people who are much older, they just say, how do you bring back that past? What is the purpose of bringing that past? I said, we need to give the next generation, as you say, the journey of how we got here.
Yes.
A lot of people paid to get here.
Yes.
I talk about those June the 16th uprisings, those young men and little women who gave up their lives so that we could be so corrupt,
yes,
so tender entrepreneurs,
yes,
so not caring for our own people, so not caring about the youth, that getting empowerment, getting a proper education, getting jobs, giving them a sense of self-respect and dignity. And yet there are people who gave their lives. And that's all my work, always, yes, is to hold that mirror to the present South African community, yes, and say, see yourself.
Yes.
Fit yourself in the big picture.
Yes.
See whether you have become useful, contributing into making this a better society. As Mandela said, a caring government, a people-centered government. Yes. As Thabo Mbeki said, Batupile. You know, the people first.
Yes.
As, of course, Cyril Ramaphosa is saying now, Tumamina.
Yes.
Now, how much do you volunteer to do the right thing and not volunteer to have access to wealth?
Yes. Baba, I have thousands more questions, but I understand that you are running on a very tight schedule.
Yes.
And we've run out of time. I wish you all the best, and we will be here again on Friday to watch the opening night.
Thank you.
And just all the best, and keep doing what you're doing, being the voice of the voiceless. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
I thank you too.